Chapter 6250. Mei-Ching and Paul, mother and son, did not expect that Steve was so dissatisfied with Jimmy that he wanted to completely block his way out. The two wanted to say something to Jimmy, but they did not know where to start. The mother and son exchanged glances, and then Mei-Ching said very politely, "Mr. Rothschild, Jimmy did offend you in many ways just now. But I still hope that you will forgive him once for his sincere repentance. He has 3 children in the United States, and the youngest is not yet an adult. If he disappears in China, his family will be very anxious." Jimmy was so scared that he trembled all over when he heard this, and cried and shouted, "Sister-in-law, don't say it. Please, sister-in-law, don't say it again." Jimmy saw through Steve. This guy is now going to completely chase and intercept him, and never leave him any chance and hope. Mei-Ching mentioned his wife and children, and he was really afraid that Steve's next sentence would be to send his wife and children over. Mei-Ching didn't react for a while. Why did she plead for Jimmy and scare him half to death? But then Steve suddenly clapped his hands and said excitedly, "Yes, yes, yes. We should bring his wife and children here too so that the family can be reunited." After saying that, he quickly changed his words. "No. They can't be reunited. Let his family of 5 each have a cage. And there should be an empty cage between each cage. Let them meet and talk every day across the cage, but no one can touch each other." Jimmy was so scared that he collapsed to the ground. Seeing this, Mei-Ching quickly asked Paul to help him up, and then said angrily, "Mr. Rothschild, even if you don't accept his confession, you shouldn't involve his wife and children. We have an old saying that the disaster will not affect his wife and children. If you do this, if it gets out, it will bring shame to the Rothschild family." Steve said without hesitation, "What does the ancient saying have to do with me? I just want to make things difficult for him. Not to mention his wife and children, even his dog will be taken away." Seeing Steve gritting his teeth, Charlie was afraid that he would really do it if he didn't wake him up, so he said, "Okay, Steve, you are here to attend the wedding, don't make it so bloody." Steve was stunned, then looked at Charlie, and said aggrievedly, "Mr. Wade, he barked at me first DMN it, I didn't hire him." Charlie nodded, I know, you see he is old, there is no point in keeping him in the kennel. Instead of letting him eat and wait for death at Orville's place. It is better to find something for him to do and squeeze out his surplus value." Steve hurriedly said, "Then it is also okay to let him feed the dogs and clean up the dog poop at the kennel every day." Charlie waved his hand and said, "He is an experienced lawyer after all. Cleaning up dog poop is a bit of a waste of his talent. I just want to set up a company, and the legal department is currently left with only Aunt Han. So why not let him come to me? He will do voluntary work for the new company for 10 years. If he performs well at the end of the 10 years, he will be allowed to go back. If he does not perform well in the meantime, he can be sent to the dog farm." Steve suddenly realized, "Mr. Wade, this is what you mean." Charlie nodded, turned to look at Jimmy, and asked him, "Mr. Smith, I will let you work in China for 10 years. With food and accommodation, but no salary. Are you interested? If not, just pretend I didn't say anything." When Jimmy heard this, he felt that the sky was bright, and he nodded frantically. "I am interested. I am interested." For him, the worst thing is to go to the dog farm. And the second worst is to go back to China and go to jail. Being able to stay in China to work, at least you can still get basic personal freedom. This is not a little bit worse, it is definitely a mercy outside the law. Mei-Ching didn't expect that Charlie would let Jimmy stay and work under him. But after thinking about it carefully, this is a very good solution. Although Jimmy is a little shameless, this is also the basic quality of American lawyers, especially those who focus on business. If you are a little thin-skinned, you can't get by at all. The thicker the skin and the higher the professional level, the greater the industry status and influence. Jimmy can become a senior partner of Ellis Law Firm, which is enough to show that he is definitely beyond doubt in terms of professional ability. Moreover, he has been behind the scenes for several years. And he must be a little rusty when it comes to actual operation. Jimmy has always been in the front line, and his practical ability is absolutely no problem. Moreover, this is indeed a good thing for Jimmy. No matter what, it is much better than going to a kennel or prison. Charlie specifically asked Jimmy at this moment. "You said you are interested. Are you sincere?" Jimmy blurted out without hesitation, "Yes, yes. Absolutely sincere." Charlie asked again, 10 years, you won't regret it, right?" "No, no, absolutely not." Charlie asked again, "If others ask you about it, you know what to say, right?" "I know, I voluntarily chose to develop in China." "Absolutely voluntary. Even if my wife and children ask me, I will say the same thing." Charlie nodded gently, "You are a teachable child. In this case, I will let you go back and arrange your family. Come to Oris Hill to report to Aunt Han in half a month." "No problem." Jimmy didn't expect Charlie to let him go back home to make arrangements. He was extremely grateful and nodded heavily, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for your magnanimity. Don't worry, Mr. Wade, I'll come right away after I arrange things at home." Charlie looked at Steve and said, "If he doesn't come in half a month or runs away, then you have someone catch him and send him directly to Orville's dog farm." Steve didn't expect that he couldn't even abuse a loser like Jimmy. He felt a little depressed, but when he thought that it didn't matter if he suffered a little grievance. The most important thing was to please Charlie. So he immediately patted his chest and promised, "Don't worry, Mr. Wade, I'll have someone keep an eye on him." Charlie looked at Jimmy and said with a smile, "You are Paul's uncle. The blood relationship in your bones will not disappear because of the death of your eldest brother. Aunt Han has been your eldest sister-in-law for decades. People say that the eldest sister-in-law is like a mother. Although your eldest brother is no longer here, she is also half of your relative. You are also very loyal and righteous. Not only did you come to China to attend Aunt Han's wedding, but you were also willing to come to China to help Aunt Han at the beginning of her new career. This feeling is really touching. In my opinion, when the wedding starts later, you must go on stage to say a few words of blessing, so that the guests can see the brilliance of your humanity." Jimmy heard this and felt bitter in his heart. He knew what Charlie meant. On the one hand, it was a step for him to step down. On the other hand, he also needed to come forward to give these guests a reasonable explanation. Otherwise everyone would not understand what happened here. Although this kind of thing is quite embarrassing, he can't care about it at the moment. It is the greatest blessing to escape from the clutches of Steve Rothschild. In front of this matter, what does it matter if he loses some face? He can take off his pants and run NAC 3D from here to Oris Hill Airport. He can really do that.